All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to our Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great weekend. Thanks so much for stopping by. So like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. I'll give priority answering to anyone who has a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They always get that priority answering. If you'd also like that, there's a link in the description. And so we have Brian, Stillbuster, Kraken, Derek, Lanswath, and Kevin, and Nicholas, Sean, Theodore, and Luke. OKS Basis. Thanks so much for stopping by, everyone, and happy to see you all here. Mr. 705, Trucking Car Guy, Jordan. All right, so getting right into it here. I see Stillbuster says, "Hey all, for my car spot of the week, I was driving in the Hershey area and drove by street speed in his C801. That car is so sick in person. Crazy. He paid 100 grand over MSRP though." I hadn't heard all that. That's crazy. I guess it's just a gamble of, having one of the first ones and thinking you'll probably make that 100 grand up in ad revenue in videos, which I guess he probably will. And, that's still a desirable car. So I'm guessing he can probably still sell it for over stick or even used, after he's done with it, in a year or less or whenever. But that is crazy, but cool you got to see him. I didn't even know 01s were actually being delivered yet, so he must have gotten a very early one for sure. And hope he stays safe with it. Lancelot, thanks so much for being a member for a year now. I really appreciate that. He says, "Good evening, everyone." Also, thanks so much for gifting 5 memberships, Lancelot. I really appreciate it, and happy to see a bunch of people, mostly new people, I think they're able to get the memberships here. So that's awesome. Thanks so much, and hope you're doing well as well, Lancelot. And let me see. Kraken says, "What a weekend. Matt, I have a new submission for you for another member car of the week. I got rid of the Kona Knight and got a 2013 Outback with a 6-speed manual. I'll email you when I get home from Sonic." That's awesome. Well, congrats on the new car. I said, I still have the N. I'm too invested in that car to get rid of it now. Yeah, I figured you love that car way too much to ever get rid of that thing, at least not for a long, long time. But that's cool. You got an Outback there, and the manual is cool. I didn't remember they came with a 6-speed. The 2013's got to be rare with a manual. That's unless it was swapped, because there was the manual in the Spec B, right, or the GT version that they sold for that generation. But because that was, I'm trying to think of when they ended, like my generation of the Legacy, because that one I think ended in 2010 or 2011. So yeah, that's a very rare car. That's awesome. Congrats on finding that too. That's got to be, again, a very rare find. I hope it treats you well and hope you have a blast with it. But yeah, congrats on that. And let me see. So Derek says, "Bring back the weekly updates." I wish people would watch them. Unfortunately, it's just, there just was not enough viewership there. I didn't want to end them. Just I got to do what I got to do to, keep the channel going here. Lanswath also says, "Good evening. Sadly, I don't have any cool spots for this week. I haven't been out much this week." Well, yep, it's all good. Sometimes those weeks are slower. I had a bunch of stuff because I drove to West Virginia and back. Saw a bunch of, I saw a Cavalier Z24 with the old ground effects kit, the early kind of 90s, maybe mid 90s. It wasn't the pointy nose one. It was the generation before that where it was really squared off, but it did have the sealed beam, headlight covers and all that. But that was cool. It was a teal color. And then I passed that, and then I saw the next generation of Cavalier driving by at the same time, which was kind of a funny coincidence. I saw a bunch of old GM stuff here this weekend. I'm trying to think of what else stood out in my mind, but that Cavalier is probably one of the standouts because just you don't see those very often. But it is funny how, especially the part of West Virginia that I was in, there's a lot of older cars that just I'm not used to seeing in my suburban kind of area in Pittsburgh, and just wow, it's kind of, I always take mental notes of okay, well, there's some of these vehicles that are actually lasting pretty long down here, and stuff that I thought had disappeared from the streets for the most part is still driving around down there. And so it's always kind of enlightening to see what other people are still driving around. Let me see. So Kevin, yeah, says hi, and Sean as well. Sean says also, Matt, did you see the Top Gear article that the Prelude will have 180 horsepower, most likely 200 here in the US? Thoughts? Um, yeah, I don't recall what the hybrid system in Japan does, but I know in Europe, I think the Civic Hybrid only does like 180 horsepower or so. So maybe that's kind of the thinking, is that whatever the powertrain does for that individual market is what Prelude's going to get in those markets as well. But yeah, I mean, I fully expected Prelude was just going to be a phoned-in powertrain, and just be that hybrid system, which, I mean, people love in Civic Hybrid and everything else. So having it in the coupe form, I think, is great. So hopefully by now everyone has their expectations in check, and no one's expecting Type R motor in this thing, at launch. I still think Prelude Type R has a decent chance of happening, possibly, but down the road, not for the first year or two, I'd say. Same thing we saw with Integra. But yeah, that totally makes sense. And Theodore says everyone's doing well with this crazy weather. It rains, then stops, then it rains, and it stops. I mean, pouring rain. Yeah, it's the same thing it was here this week. There was like 4 times in a row throughout the course of the day where it was like, yeah, super intense pour, nothing for a few hours, super intense pour, nothing. And it was just like, it's bizarre. It's like we're all living in Florida or some tropical climate. And I hope everyone's doing well still with all the weather. And Luke says, I've been playing the video game Burnout Paradise lately. Very nostalgic game for me. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't remember if Paradise, I feel like I did play like I think there's a new Paradise, right? I don't know. I played the first Paradise, I think. I think that was maybe the last Burnout game that I actually played through. But I love the Burnout games. They're so good. I so desperately want to go through all my old video games someday and replay all the classics. But yeah, hopefully someday I can figure out either doing a live stream for it so I can justify doing it on my own, doing it that way instead of on my own time. Because if I wait till I have my own free time, it'll probably never happen until, I don't know, I'm 70 or something. But yeah, that's I can't remember. Paradise, that was the one that was like open world, right? And you can do whatever, but it was still like not actual name brand cars or anything. But I loved Burnout Revenge. I think was my favorite one. And even what was the one? There's the one where you just it was more arcadey, but you just basically had to make the largest pileups possible. I think they even did like an iOS kind of app game or something at one point too, if I remember correctly. But anyway, yeah, I love the Burnout games, and the soundtracks were always so good. And let me see. So yeah, Truck Car says greetings from Arizona. And KS Basis says, did anyone watch the reveal of the Faraday Future Super One? It was painful to say the least. I didn't. I didn't even know that was on my radar because I thought Faraday Future just announced bankruptcy proceedings or something recently, or they're in some real big financial, hole if they aren't declaring bankruptcy. But yeah, I don't know. I saw, just because I follow Cody Walker, I saw that he revealed it. I mean, for him, I guess it's a payday and it's whatever. But I'm kind of surprised with how close his ties are with Nissan that he did, a different brand there. But yeah, I know I want to go back and watch because you have my interest peaked. I just don't see that company having a future, ironically enough. But yeah, best of luck to them. But it just seems like they're going to kind of slowly follow Fisker in a less dramatic fashion, it seems. And especially, that's another thing. I kind of keep forgetting about all the random little startups, but with the tax credit going away, I mean, their stuff's super high end, so maybe it's not as much of a concern for them. But any of these other smaller companies outside of Slate, I'm pretty much writing the rest of them off as just never happening. Even VinFast, not having the tax credit now and stuff, I think it's going to be very hard for them. And I just don't even see that really going anywhere. Again, we'll see what happens. They do have a ton of money, but for how long and how much do you want to burn before you just realize it might not be worth bothering with, especially, again, with the anti-EV laws we're basically going to have here for the next few years, just everything being so against EVs. I'm sure any of these companies that have only EVs, just don't even bother until the 2030s and then try again. Let me see. Will, thanks for saying hi from San Diego there. And let me see. Lancelot says, sorry, everyone. I'm mega tired tonight, so I'll be lurking on my Apple TV. Well, thanks so much for stopping by nonetheless. Totally get it. We had a crazy weekend ourselves as well between driving down to West Virginia and just lots of busyness. And I've been working on the whole new car thing here as well here the past few days. So that's going to be the big stuff this week. As long as everything goes smoothly here later this week, I should be signing for the new car here this week, and we'll be having a farewell video on Mach-E later this week, again assuming everything goes smoothly, and then a introduction video probably the end of this week, maybe this next weekend, on the new car. So stay tuned for that. But thankfully that whole saga is going to come to an end here, thankfully, and be nothing to worry about any new cars here for the next couple of years. Decepticon says, yo, Matt in the house. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. And Jordan says, I saw you're publishing on affordable cars today. I definitely want to check out the Malibu. Does the 2024 come in a hybrid? If so, is it worthy mileage? Unfortunately, no. They had a Malibu hybrid like, I don't know, 10 years ago, and then they quit it for some bizarre reason at the exact wrong time. So yeah, no newer Malibu hybrids at least. Malibu is just, it's a good amount of space and it's a soft ride. That's about where my compliments end for Malibu. It's the lowest powered one in the segment. It's the sloppiest handler in the segment. It's the least impressive interior in the segment as far as tech goes, because it's just so outdated. And it's just, there's just so many better options these days. And unless you're getting Malibu for a huge discount, like over $5,000 less than the best discount you can get on everything else, I wouldn't bother with Malibu. And they're also really cheap on the used market because they'd appreciate like rocks. So, I mean, you can, find a used one for very little money too, if you want to go that route. But, they also have had some issues with the engine longevity in those. So not one I could really recommend from a long-term perspective either. And again, because all the last ones standing are so much better, I'd obviously much rather have any of the other competitors over Malibu. So it's hard to recommend that one. And Luke says, I like the Kia K4 hatchback. I just wish they made an SI competitor with a manual and maybe like 220 horsepower. Yeah, the 190 they're doing, the K4 turbo just doesn't cut it anymore. I mean, it's fine. I reviewed the K4. It's, a nice vehicle as far as tons of space, tons of tech for the money. And for, I'd say, most of the market, that's probably the two most important things. So I think they're playing it absolutely right. It's just that, yeah, for an enthusiast, the Forte GT of the past, which I thought was a really great little competitor to the SI, for example. We just don't really have that here with K4 just yet. I hope we get it at some point. I also hope that, if there's a next gen Elantra N, that we maybe see K4 GT come with an actual like Elantra N kind of powertrain to it. Because I think it has potential. It's just that they're right now just, making it the mass market appeal kind of thing, which I can't blame them for. And the hatchback version is cool. I got to check it out at the New York Auto Show back in April and did a, walk around video on it back then. It's, it's still a smaller hatchback. I still think Civic does the hatch better from a packaging standpoint, but we'll see, once we can kind of compare them and get more up close and personal with it, for a longer period of time. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm happy to see a new hatchback, nonetheless. And Kraken says, yes, Matt, they still made the manual. My Subaru guru friend was shocked I found the car in a manual. Apparently it's only for the base and the premium trims. Interesting. Yeah, I knew they got rid of it for all the other sportier stuff by that point. But yeah, that's cool though that they still had it. Because I think eventually it went down to just the regular base trim. But yeah, I can't remember what year that was. They finally got rid of it in the Outback. I feel like it wasn't that long ago, but it was definitely, I think, in the last generation, maybe. Yeah. And he also says car was on the lot for 2 days, 113,000 miles, crystal clean Carfax. The car is pristine. Got an amazing deal too. Happy I have no car payments and cheaper insurance now. That's awesome. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, especially if it's just a beater and just daily to keep the miles off the Kona. And then yeah, that's great. Happy you're able to work out something there. And Trenton Cargo says we got a few sprinkles here, enough to keep it from getting ridiculously hot. Well, that's nice. I'm glad it's not too much of a scorcher right now in Arizona. And Chadwick says, hi Matt, love the evening drive video. I watch all the time. Watch those all the time to get an idea of the interior's look at night. Nice. Yeah, and I'm, with those videos, I typically, because it has to be when I'm alone in the car, and I'm oftentimes only alone in the car when I'm at night after our daughter's asleep. Those videos will probably, as the year goes on here, become more and more night drives. And it's just going to kind of be what the surroundings are like, and the titlings will obviously change as well. So right now I'm doing summer evening drives, sunset drives, because that's what I'm seeing. But as the sunsets continue to go down sooner, they won't be sunset drives anymore. They'll be night drives, or maybe I'll try and do a little bit more during the day and maybe mix it up a little bit. But maybe if the POV videos do well, I'd be even open to doing a day and a night drive and do 2 a week, because again, they're so easy to do. I'd be happy to do 2 of those per car, even if people want to see that. Again, I'm more than happy to do as much or as little as people want out of that, but I'm so happy that those have been received pretty well so far. And so thank you all so much. That really helps, the support and all the comments too, because commenting still does help on YouTube for sure, as far as the algorithm and all that. So seeing all the comments and reading all of them is really great, but then also just seeing so many people engaging with that and being excited about that, I think really helps the algorithm as well. So that's all very much appreciated. So thank you all so much for supporting that. And I got some great feedback this week about those as well. You definitely need to work on audio. There's a little bit of wind noise there in the GTI video, especially. And just the audio. I'm just using the onboard audio with the Insta360, so it's not obviously great. So I just need to work out how to do audio well without spending a fortune. This is kind of what I'm trying to do. I mean, it's an investment, and I'm, again, if these continue to, I already have 2 other ones filmed, so I can't fix anything on those. But as long as they continue to have, decent viewership here, I will invest in some kind of other mic solution to make that better, because I want them to be good. And so I'm working on the audio component. I may also even have to upgrade cameras, because the Insta360 for the truly dark nighttime stuff might not be the best, and some of the newer GoPros are much better. So I'm going to keep working on those. So bear with me if they're not amazing just yet. Don't give up hope on them. I'm going to continue to improve them. I'm kind of, again, on a learning process with those as well. I appreciate the hearts and the support there as well, everyone. So yeah, but I am working on it, but I'm so glad you guys, are enjoying them, at least so far a little bit, with the current form they're in. And keep the feedback coming, because that's really helpful. Because I don't want to just keep on going with them being crappy and then be like, oh, why isn't the video doing well? It's because no one's telling me that the audio sucks or whatever. So, even if it's awkward or whatever, I appreciate those of you who spoke up and said, look, like, this needs to be better. That helps me to know that I can't just rest on my laurels, because otherwise I will. And to know that I need to keep pushing and keep making them better and better. So thank you all so much for that as well. The tough love oftentimes is just as valuable as well. And let me see. Where were we here? Ford Enthusiast, thank you so much for being a member for 10 months now. I really appreciate it. He says, hey, Matt, hope all is well. I've been away a couple of weeks and was wondering if you made a decision yet on what is replacing your Mach-E. Yes, we have pretty much decided. It's not 100% finalized. We will be signing the papers this week on the new car. So assuming all goes smoothly, I will have a farewell video on the Mach-E later this week. And I will have a reveal video on the new vehicle probably this next weekend coming up here. Again, assuming everything goes smoothly, that's I'm hoping to have all that flushed out here by the end of the month. So, but we have decided, and I'm very pleased with the way everything worked out. Again, assuming everything goes well, there's no other stuff, right when I'm getting ready to sign. But we have a deal locked in, and I'm very happy with it. It's not quite as amazing as the deal, the Fiat 500E. I'll say that right off the bat. um, but I'm very happy with it. For again being a family vehicle, that obviously I want something that's bigger, more capable, more safe, all that kind of stuff. But I'm very happy. We're going to be saving a bunch of money over what we're paying for the Mach-E, and it's going to be good, I think. So I'm looking forward to showing you guys here just a few days, and I think and it's going to be very appropriate for the channel, and especially for me and for both us, Beth and I. I think it's somewhat predictable, maybe not, we'll see. But stay tuned for that. And thanks so much again for being a member for 10 months as well, Ford Enthusiast. And let me see here. So where were we? Kraken says, I need to watch those. Curious to support Matt's new ideas. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Kraken. And hopefully you enjoy the POVs. Let me know what you think about them. And Luke says, Paradise was the one with all the licensed classes. They had a big surf island, and Paradise Showtime, you could flip your car all over to crash vehicles. Okay, nice. That must be the one I was thinking of. That's a lot of fun. Was Paradise Xbox One, or or was that 360? I can't remember, and PS3 or 4. But that's awesome. I definitely need to play more old games. And Richie says, one company that really doesn't have a future is Jag. I disagree. I think Jag does have a future because they have the name recognition, and I think that they have the right idea that we've seen other companies already changing to as well. And I think, Jag tried for a long time to just try and be another BMW, be another Audi, be another, Porsche, and this kind of stuff. And it's just, they're not doing it. They want to, but they never were truly successful. They were always the fun, crazier alternative. But, look at how little XE sold compared to 3 Series. Look at how little XF sold. Look at how, even F-Type, isn't out selling 911 or anything. So it's, that's, I think the thing is, it's almost like with my channel where I can kind of relate, where it's like, these car companies, they can keep trying to do the same thing and hope that someday it pays off, and someday they break through, and someday more people appreciate, the brand and appreciate what they do and all that. But how long do you keep going with that before you just realize like it's just never going to work, and then you finally change and do a new path and you try new things? I think Jag has to try new things, and we saw COVID taught all these car companies, we don't need volume. We need profitable vehicles and big profit margins. And if we can sell $5 million cars to a handful of billionaires, that's more profit than we make selling, 50,000 CLAs or whatever. And so why not just do the fun, crazy stuff? If you don't care about the people, you're just caring about your bottom line, which is, what corporations really are all about at the end of the day. They're not charities. They're not there for the greater good. I mean, a lot of them are very philanthropic and do have those ambitions of being the people's car or whatever. But when we're talking about luxury brands, they don't care. And so if they're able to push up market and still keep the same profits coming in, building less cars, why not do it? And I think that that's going to be the only way forward for Jag. If they don't do that, then they're never going to survive. Doing another generation of the XE, guess what? No one's going to buy it over a 3 Series. You're going to do another version of the XF, guess what? No one's going to buy it over a 5 Series. So why bother? Why bother fighting? It's not going to work. So just give up and do something different. And that's what they did. They did this crazy comic book looking thing that's going to make a statement when it rolls up in these wealthy areas who they are targeting. They're not trying to target, the old Jag buyers. None of those people can afford this new one. They're done with those buyers. They don't care about them anymore, and they're okay with that because that's, again, the way forward. And I think that makes entirely just so much sense. And So I think that I think they're going to be okay. They do also still sell a ton of Land Rovers, and JLR is a giant company, and but yeah, I think it's going to work just because of the styling. Now, if it looked like a boring, if the new Jag came out and they were going to be saying, it's $300,000 and it looks like a Mercedes EQS or something, I'd be like, yeah, they're done, forget it, because they're never going to have it be convincing. But that car is going to stand out from even a Bugatti. It's going to stand out from take your pick of any car that has road presence. um this Jag looks wild, and I think they're going to actually deliver it in that form, because we've seen camo spy shots of cars that look exactly like the concept. So if they actually build that concept and make that thing drivable and sell it like that, yeah, you're going to get a bunch of people that are going to be lining up for it. And that's why the marketing is very high end fashion and all this kind of stuff, because that's what those people in that world are into. So I think they're playing it totally right. Obviously, as car people, you don't want to see, the crazy F types go away. Trust me, I'm sad about all that as well. But, I also want Jag to succeed. And I think that's the only way for them to succeed, because everything else has failed for them. And so it's just, being pragmatic about it. And Stratus says, hey, Matt, speaking of Cody Walker, have you been to any Fuel Fest shows before? I plan to go to the one in Dallas later this year. That's awesome. I've never been to a Fuel Fest, and never had a chance to meet Cody. So many of my other YouTube friends have met him and have been able to do stuff with him, but I've never been able to be on the same program as him for anything. Or, like I was hoping I did Nissan Z, that maybe he'd be on that, or, just other things, auto shows or something, but never had a chance to cross paths with him. He did. I think I commented a couple of times on his page or something or whatever, but he has liked, and I think he even responded to one of my comments a while back. So he is aware of who I am and has interacted with me. So that in and of itself, that like Paul Walker's brother even liked a comment that I left is enough of a thrill for me still. But I'd love to someday just, he seems like a really cool guy, so I'd love to shake his hand and say hi. And it's also awesome, the Reach Out Worldwide stuff that he continues to do, that Paul started. Great charity. It's always my go-to charity, by the way. Anyone supporting charities, Reach Out Worldwide is fantastic. They do, they're the ones that whenever a tsunami hits, they're right there bringing in necessary supplies and all that kind of stuff, and really doing some great, useful work, right at ground zero for this stuff. And it's awesome that he's going to continue to keep that thriving. And so, yeah, it seems like he's a hell of a guy. And you see, Still Buster says, also changed my mind on the Grand Highlander. Wife and I discussed that a 3-row wasn't needed. Went back through your reviews and decided to get a Mazda CX-50 Turbo in the top trim. Such a blast to drive. Well, congrats on the new CX-50 Turbo. That's awesome. And yeah, they're great cars. And I heard, I haven't tested it yet, but it sounds like 2025s they fixed the steering as well, because that was one thing I complained about with the older CX-50s. Was steering was a little too heavy for my personal taste, and that was the same case for CX-90 in a way, and they kind of tweaked that for 2025 and lighten up the steering a little bit, which I think is better for mass appeal. And so I'm sure it's even better now than it was. I'm really curious to try it, because with lighter steering, that probably is going to feel even better in corners for CX-50. But yeah, I love CX-50. It's so nice. So congrats, great choice, and hope it treats you well, and hope you enjoy it for a long time. But congrats on that. It seems like, yeah, a lot of people get new cars these days. Everyone trying to beat the tariffs and trying to get the deals while they can here. So that's awesome. And Cam says, hi, Matt, joining from vacation. Well, thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a great vacation. Yeah, feel free to go off and enjoy whatever's on vacation there. But don't waste your time with us if you got better things to do. So, but thanks so much for stopping by, Cam. Dave's asking if we're getting another 500E. Definitely not. Need something a little bit bigger for the family there. MD Chaz is asking for trading in the Mustang for a Mustang. Yeah, you have to wait and see as far as what we replace the Mach-E with. But yeah, our Mach-E is going away. So yeah, stay tuned here this week. And Cam says, do you like the 2.0 Malibu? I don't know if I reviewed a 2.0. I think the one I had the 1.6T in it. So I don't know if I ever tried the 2.0. Obviously, it would be better if there's more power there. But again, all the other complaints of the Malibu probably are still there. So, but at least that would fix the power thing. The other thing I really hated about the Malibu, this was again like 2016, I think, so it's a long time ago. But there was no way to turn off auto stop start, and it was not the best auto stop start system either, and that really bothered me because it was just not not a good combo powertrain wise. And T-Sol Beat says, any thoughts on the teaser from Toyota and the Lexus Coupe that debuted at Goodwood recently? Well, if there's any new teaser, I haven't seen anything, but I have obviously seen the cars running around, in camo there at Goodwood. And yeah, I think that is going to be sweet. They've been working on it for a long time. It's the new GT3 car there, a cup car. Oh, we got some rain happening. Hopefully we don't have any power outages this time. But yeah, so it seems really promising. Obviously we know nothing about it, but I mean the looks, it's crazy with how low and long that hood is and everything. Really excited for it. I know nothing about it, and I have no clue. There's talks it's going to be V8. I think twin turbo V8 is what the rumors were suggesting, right? So it's going to be awesome. I think it'll be a nice successor to the LFA. Probably won't won't sound as good as the LFA, but will be, still an incredible sports car, I'm sure, and is going to be really, really awesome. I'm very excited to maybe try it out. We'll see. Usually with stuff that's super high end like that, I don't even know if they're going to do a media drive for it, because I'm assuming it's going to be limited production and very, very expensive. And I've never been in contact with Toyota. Like I came into doing car reviews after the LFA launch and all that, so I have no clue how they handle these really special models. But I'm guessing I'm probably not high enough up on the totem pole to get an invite for driving that, and they probably won't just be floating around the press fleets, so I might not ever drive it, but I'd love to someday. It seems like it's going to be amazing. The more sports cars out there, obviously, the better. And YH, thanks so much for stopping by and for a super chat here. He says, notice the camera lens in the housing attached to the rearview mirror of my 2015 Mustang GT. Weird. And it's pointing at the passenger footwell. Interesting. Maybe. So I guess you probably do you have an auto. I don't know if you have an automatic Mustang or not, but if it's an automatic and it's the only thing I can think of is a driver monitoring kind of thing. If it's for because you can't get Blue Cruise in the Mustang or anything, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's future proofing it for maybe rolling out Blue Cruise someday. I have no clue. I've never heard of that or seen that. He says it is an auto. It's kind of behind the rearview mirror, so it's kind of hidden and couldn't find anything on it via Google. And yeah, I did get a haircut here back, I think on Friday. Yeah, so that's weird. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I can't figure out why there would be a camera there. Now, if there's a sensor for like the auto dimming mirror, that could be a thing, but it shouldn't be an actual camera lens. So if you're seeing an actual camera lens, I don't know. I mean, you could take it back to the dealer, but if it's a sensor, it could just be a normal auto dimming mirror kind of thing. That's the only other thing, though. Otherwise, I'm all out of guesses. But always can take it to the dealer, have them check it out if you're confused or concerned about it, and that's their job, is to figure out that stuff. And thanks again for the super chat. General Chicken, thank you for a super chat as well. He says, hey, Matt, with the new Prelude coming out, I went back and saw an older review of yours of the 2001 Prelude. Awesome car. New one better live up. Yeah, I hope so. Again, I hope everyone just keeps in mind, it's only going to be 200 horsepower. As long as, you go into it with that expectation, I think it's going to be great. And it does sound like it's going to be better than just a Coupe Civic, too, because it's going to have Type R's front suspension, it sounds like. It's going to have the manual shift mode, which, I don't know how well that's going to actually work, but it's, they're doing little things to separate it. Maybe those things will trickle down to regular Civic as well. But, I think it's going to be fine. The same way I'm perfectly happy with Integra. I know people are still all pissed off about Integra. Integra is what Integra has always been. It's always been a nicer Civic. And that's what it is, So I mean, I think they stick to history very well in a lot of ways of mirroring things and kind of following the same hierarchies and all that. But I'm excited for Prelude. I think it's gonna be great. Again, coupes. I'm always happy to see new coupes, new sports cars. Never gonna complain about them. I don't care how crappy they are. I mean, I'll obviously share my thoughts on the pros and cons and the flaws. But I'm never going to complain about a car company bringing out a new, coupe or sports car. It's always great to see. And let me see here. So where were we here? Need a drink while I find my spot. Richard says, any thoughts on the 2025 Mustang GT Premium? They're great. I did a review on a 24. It's all the same for 25. Check out the review, and that gives you all my thoughts on it. My other little thing that I think I added this in the review as well, but we often talk about this in these live streams. Personally, I don't think that the improvements for the S650 generation are big enough to justify a giant price gap. Now, if you don't have a giant price gap and if there's a giant discount on it, you're getting, like Ford has 0% financing for 72 months right now or whatever. If you can get 0% financing and a big discount, probably worth going for. But if you are budget conscious and you just want a V8 Mustang that drives good, sounds good, has a nice enough interior, I think S550 still is going to be fine. You'll save so much money going for, a 2023 or older Mustang. Same motor, there's very little. I mean, it's got quicker steering for the new one, slightly stiffer chassis, and then the new styling and the new interior. So, I mean, personally, even if I could have afforded to keep the Bullet, I would have had no temptation to upgrade to the new gen version. I think S550 is still plenty. It has the screen with CarPlay and all that if you need that stuff. It's got the digital gauge cluster. It feels modern enough, and so to me, I have no need to go to the S650 personally. But if you there's all those financial incentives and stuff that help. I think they're great still. I love Mustangs, and I'm still waiting to actually review one for a longer period of time. I had a 2024 EcoBoost for a week, but I just did a quick hour or so drive in the GT so far. I'm still waiting on a dark horse. Ford is so slow at setting press cars. So I'm hoping I get to that stuff eventually. We'll see. But it's another summer going by here and still no Mustangs in the fleet. It's kind of crazy the way Ford runs that. But anyway, yes, but I do love the Mustang still. Kraken said 2015 was the last year for the manual Outbacks. Just looked it up. Well, thanks for checking it out there. And that's okay. So I guess time just flies. I thought it was more recent than that, but that's crazy. Well, you got one of the last ones there. Then that's pretty cool. And let me see. Cam says, watched Kirk's vid about the new CX-5. Yeesh, that screen is a deal breaker. Did he get hands on with it or something? I don't know. Because we all kind of cover the same stuff. And I mean, like I said in my video, I'm like, it's the biggest in the segment, but it's just a big switch from what Mazda said for years, that screens were a big distraction, and they didn't have to get rid of the climate control, and they got rid of the climate control as well. We'll see how it plays out for them. I mean, I'm happy it's going to be easier to control than the controller wheel, but is it going to actually jive with it? It's just hard from a PR standpoint to say one thing and then turn around and do something else. Like, I'm happy that they have realized touchscreens are better, but then to go overboard, it just seems like there's just a lack of judgment there. Like, okay, we're going to ignore everyone's pleas for a touchscreen for years and years and years. And then whenever we finally do come to our senses, we're going to then go too far the other way. It's like, read the room. Like, look at any comments online about what people want. People want a touchscreen. So that is a good choice, but they do not want, something that's tacked on, that's not integrated into the dash, that's too big, that gets rid of the climate controls. It's just, I don't know. I'm sure there's other things at play, but some companies make it seem like this is so hard. And I'm like, please hire me as a consultant. If this crap is like genuinely this difficult to figure out, Like, I don't understand. I don't know. It's just armchair product planner over here, but I'm like, you know, just when car companies make these giant screw ups. I mean, again, CX5 might be completely fine, and I might be the one that's an idiot here, and it might turn out that everyone loves it and it sells like crazy. But it just there's just these choices where it's like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know, but yeah. Let me see. And YH also, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, I went with the S650 over the 550 for the warranty. It's a Ford after all. It's already giving me some trouble. I'm sorry it's giving you trouble. That's a good point. That is definitely worth mentioning. Thankfully, the Bullet, I never had any issues. So I mean, I don't know if it was just good luck on my end or if it was S550s. S650 got off to a rough start. I mean, I remember some of the first deliveries, people had the software was bricking and they're having all kinds of issues. And also, S650 is very hard to tune because it's still a locked ECU. That's another thing for the person that was asking about that earlier. It's not as much tunability. I think they're starting to crack it, right? But I don't think it's totally out of the woods there. But there is some software stuff. He said that's why I avoided the 2025 or the 2024. Gotcha, and went for a 25. Yeah, so I mean that makes sense. At least you got to avoid all the early teething issues. But it's just I think it's a new software electronics system in that vehicle as well. So there's probably just some teething there. The warranty is certainly a nice thing to have. That's one of the reasons why we always have pretty new cars, because I do enjoy having the peace of mind of a warranty. So yeah, if you have warranty, I mean, you can get an extended warranty on a used one, but there's nothing beats a new car warranty. So if you can have new car warranty, 0% financing for 72 months or whatever, and a good discount, S650 is probably looking better now than it ever has, honestly. I see you also said they just passed that California law thing, tune coming fall of 2025. Interesting. Okay. I didn't realize it was related to the law. I thought it was just that they wanted to lock that stuff. Austin says they cracked the S650 completely, as far as I know. Okay, interesting. And Danny says, HP tuners cracked the ECU. Okay, so I guess now it's fair game for anybody, but that's cool. Well, now I guess that complaint then goes out the window for S650. So at least now you can tune them. And now you got to better financing and better deals than you had initially. And so, looking forward to, hopefully that means more S650s, because I mean, they've been doing terrible sales wise. So I don't want Mustang to sell poorly. So I hope that all these things kind of help them to finally start selling them in better numbers. But YH says, I want to keep my warranty though, so I'm waiting for Ford to do a tune. Yeah, and that's a good play. I think I personally wouldn't want to avoid a warranty with a tune either, especially because it's so much power already. Again, like I've said, in the past, if you want a bunch of power, just go for a GT500 or something like that. But let me see here. Where were we? So sorry, I keep losing my spot. Trenton Car Guy says most days it's between 105 and 110. Today was like 80s to 90s with the cloud cover. Also a short day at work, so not complaining. Nice, that's awesome. And Jordan says, can't wait for a convertible POV drive. Yes, that's another reason why I need to figure out the audio pretty quick, because I am going to have a Miata in towards the end of this month here, at the end of this month. And so I need to make sure that I get some kind of wind solution. So I got to figure it out, because I won't bore you guys with the whole process of trying to figure out how to do that, because you want to have the sound match the head movements and have it be close to this area. And I know, I think Topher and all those guys have the binaural mics in their ears. Those are kind of hard to get and pretty expensive. I'm contemplating playing around with some of the other stuff that I have currently to see if I can work something up that still is good enough. We'll see. But it'll be my little assignment here of experimentation for the next couple of weeks. And let me see. Kraken says it's been an adjustment with the manual, but I love it. Very notchy, and the throws are quite short, and the clutch is a little less forgiving. Interesting. Well, hopefully, yeah, you get the hang of it. And yeah, manual Subarus are. I mean, they're pretty good for the most part. The rev hang in the WRX is a little annoying, but I feel like it's gotten a little bit better in the past few years here. And see, Theodore says the best thing is you give your honest opinion. Honesty is the best. I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's yeah, something that I oftentimes it's one of those things that's a blessing and a curse, because like, even just like today, I got a comment on the Volkswagen Tiguan video of someone being like, you counted to 4 when you're like waiting for the acceleration. It wasn't actually 4 seconds. You're being dishonest by saying it's 4 seconds. And I'm like, I'm just counting on camera, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, yes, that's probably not on a stopwatch exactly 4 seconds, but it's just illustrating like this sucks as far as response goes. And, but like a lot of people are like, I love my Tiguan. And I'm like, that's great. You love your Tiguan. I'm not here to rain on your parade, but I'm going to be honest. And if it sucks, in my opinion, I'm going to say it. And, I get crap a lot of times because, people, you see a lot of other car reviewers that, are very positive, and that is the way to succeed, because while people say they want honesty and they say that they want people to be brutally honest and the reviews and stuff, at the end of the day, we actually joke, a lot of me and my review buddies joke around about this, because there's so many people that they watch reviews after they've bought the car. I mean, obviously there's a lot of you who do actually watch and do research beforehand, but like the funny trend that we often all see across the car reviewing world is that everybody shows up, they say, I bought this car, and now I want everyone to give me a pat on the back that I made a good choice. They want the reaffirmation that they made a good choice and that everyone agrees with them that they bought a really good car. And this is why it's kind of safer to do positive reviews, because everyone wants to, again, get that satisfaction, and no one wants to be told that, hey, your car sucks. And, and again, if you like it, again, it's either maybe you haven't experienced the stuff that's better, or it's genuinely not an issue for you. Either way, it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, like, that's why I actually catch grief for some of this stuff when I'm honest. But I'm not going to apologize for it, because again, that's I think very important, for better or for worse, to have that honesty. And everyone has their own opinions, and different reviewers genuinely think one thing's great, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That is horrible. Or vice versa. I think something's the greatest thing ever, and other people are like, that sucks. And like, that's why it's great to watch multiple reviewers and take an average of what all of us say, and try and, or if there's one reviewer in particular that you really value their opinion, or you feel like you jive with what they like and how they feel about things, that you can really lean on that opinion. But that's why it's great that there are multiple opinions out there, because we often don't all agree on that stuff. And many of you probably disagree with what I think about a car, or whatever, and that's healthy and that's normal. It's if we all like the same stuff, we'd be in a boring world where everyone had the same color, same model car, and that's not good for anybody. So I'm but it's just kind of funny. There's like a one recent example today of like, I was honest and now people are pissed at me for it. So it's kind of funny. But I can take it. It's the nature of YouTube, is getting the pissed off comments every once in a while. Ish, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, was cruising, feeling good when a Hellcat drove by. I was salivating. Then an R8 V10 rolls in and we both admired it. Circle of life. Yep, that's the thing. There's always someone faster, someone cooler. That's the thing you got to check yourself with in the car world, and honestly anything in life, but especially cars. Is that there's always someone with something crazier. And that's honestly like, every once in a while, either I see stuff online, or just like even going to like my own like cars and coffee car shows and things like that in the past, seeing people who like think they're a really big deal. And it's just like, I'm always waiting. I'm hoping and waiting for the day that like some dude pulls in like a Bugatti or a Pagani. And then it's like, oh, wait, like, check yourself. You're not the king of the world because you have a Lamborghini or you have a Ferrari or whatever. You're doing really well in life. Be proud of yourself, but, don't act like you're the coolest thing ever. It's just, that's one of the things with the car world, is it can be humbling or aggravating depending on how you look at it. But for me, I'm just like, sweet, cool cars, and I'm not a competitive person, so seeing stuff like that, like I'm like you, I'm salivating. I'm like, that's awesome. You admire it, and it's a positive thing. But for so many people, it's like it's such a petty thing of this rat race of having to have a more expensive Porsche Singer modified thing or whatever, and having an extra cost option, this, that, or the other, and it's just it's pretty hilarious. But thank you again for the super chat, YH. And let me see, where are we here? Raphael says, I'm here. Thanks for stopping by. He says, just got back from a late motorcycle ride. That's awesome. Sounds good. Great way to end out your weekend here. And also, I see Raphael just had a super chat. So thank you so much for a super chat, Raphael. I really appreciate it. He says, you and Sophion liked my car. Savage Geese hated it. Next month is 5 years, and I've been very happy with it. People like different things. Absolutely. Totally agree. I see also Steve says the industry is full of criminals. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some of that as well, but yeah, I appreciate that, Raphael, and happy that at least we agreed with you about your car there. But yeah, it's great that people like different things. I wish that was celebrated more. In this culture we're in, where everything's just so polarized. We used to be able to like appreciate people's differences and just live and let live, and just like that's getting to be a really tall order for a lot of people these days. Let me see here. Kraken says, I just really wanted a Hyundai or a Kia, but they couldn't combine all-wheel drive with a manual. Also looked at a 2016 Crosstrek with a 5-speed. Had to walk away because the guy wouldn't budge on the price at all. I would love to see Beth try out an Ioniq 5. Bonus if it's an N. Oh, man. I'd love an Ioniq 5N. That would be... They actually don't do really good lease deals on those. I mean, not like that was ever in the running. But Ioniq 5, we watched my review on it. I'm very impressed with the Ioniq 5. We'll be talking about all the reasons why we picked what we picked and why we didn't go with the competitors to these vehicles, and why it shaked out for us. But it's been a very interesting journey, especially with Beth, as far as I kind of had an idea of, okay, well, like here's the top ones, that I'm kind of gunning for. But then the journey with Beth and how she kind of arrived at where we arrived, because ultimately it's her car, for the most part. She's the one that's driving it all the time. And so it's really, her opinion matters more. But obviously she wants something that I'm going to enjoy too. So it was a joint decision for sure. But I kind of give preference, like, well, what do you like here? What do you don't like here? Like, let's try this, and like see, where she landed on everything. And she drove a few different things, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see you guys' reaction to what we ended up getting. But I'm really excited for it. I'm really, really, like I said earlier, I'm really, really excited. It's yeah. I won't get into it because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm excited for it. Ioniq 5N, though, was still a dream. I can roll out. We did not get an Ioniq 5N, unfortunately. Let me see. Freight, thanks for stopping by. He says, ever driven a 2008 to 2014 Jaguar XKR supercharged V8? That's my next toy. I'd love to. I actually have a new appreciation for those, because they're starting to appreciate a little bit themselves, but they're still pretty cheap. And I just like the fact that you can get in a convertible, which I want, and also it has a back seat, which is very important for me, and kind of disqualifies the F-Type until my daughter's old enough to sit in a front seat, which is going to be a long time. So, not like I have the money or any time to drive it anyway, but if I were to have something like that, that would probably be one of the top things. Although, if I'm going to roll the dice on an old British car, I think I personally would spend a little bit more and go for an Aston DB9 Volante, because that V12, even in the old DB9, sounds amazing, and it's got the back seat, and it's an Aston Martin. that's kind of like my attainable dream car. And even if it turns out to be a complete colossal nightmare as far as reliability and stuff, it'll make for great content. So as much as I still desperately want an F-Type, and I hope to someday maybe have one, I think DB9, is something I would like to play around with if I'm going to be more risky with an old car someday. Because it's not that much more. Like, you can get a nice DB9. Nice is relative, but you can get a DB9 that I would, be comfortable sitting in without being grossed out. I can, it seems like those are like 25 to 30, for an older kind of slightly rougher one, like not one of the super low mileage ones, but you can get them like really cheap. And I'm like, this is a V12 Aston Martin. Like, how are these this cheap? But I'm probably, by the time I ever have the money to do it, they'll probably end up appreciating and end up going out of my price range. But that's definitely one that I got my eye on too. But if for some reason those do end up appreciating and the X cars don't, yeah, I think that could be another one. Because I mean, like, Ian Callum designed for those things, and just such a cool car. But I've never driven one. I do have someone who has an XFR, which is the same powertrain, same platform, pretty much, that has been offered to me here in the Pittsburgh area. I'm hoping to get around to reviewing it at some point here this year, because I personally just want to try it for my own enjoyment as well. But he's had really good luck with it, supposedly, and it's been like really good. He's like, these are so underrated, like, sweetest thing you can get for, I can't remember how much he spent on it, but it was, a laughable sum of money, on the low end, like just stupid cheap. And yeah, highly recommend if you have, a little bit of flexibility as far as reliability goes. I think it'd be a really fun purchase. Luke says Burnout Paradise is Xbox 360. Okay, nice. So yeah, I think that was then the last one that I probably did, because I kind of stopped for the most part with Xbox 360 with my more intense gaming. I have an Xbox One now, but don't have the newer one. I don't even remember what it's called. But do have an Xbox One, and that's kind of where I stopped with like Forza Horizon 4 and stuff like that. But Jordan says, anyone else seen the trailer for Mortal Kombat 2? Finally, a fantasy action movie that doesn't involve Marvel or DC. It's out this October. I hadn't seen that, but sounds cool. I enjoyed the games as a kid, but yeah, I didn't see the first one, but I'm hoping it was good. At least it was good enough they did a second one, right? So that's cool. And Truck and Car Guy says, now that Matt brought it up, I did see an F-Type coupe the other day. Nice. That's always good to see. I saw an F-Type. Actually, was following one yesterday on the highway, and it was nice to follow behind. Here, that one was just a supercharged V6, but hearing that exhaust is always so great. And unfortunately, I didn't make it to the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix this past weekend. That was going on here today and yesterday. Just didn't end up working out for me. But so a lot of cars were out for that too, and that's where I was seeing a lot of this like more European stuff that usually doesn't get driven as much. Some really cool stuff. There's a few other things I can't remember what other wacky things I saw. There's a few other crazy things. And it's like an old Land Rover with like a full like roof rack of like all kinds of stuff on it, like safari kind of build. That was cool. And Joe says, I hear you on cost for better gear, etc. Worst case, things don't pan out, you can sell that for like a 40% loss. I mean, come on, man, you can do it. I'm sure things will pan out fine one way or another. I hope so. Yeah. And that is the thing with cameras. They do hold their value pretty well. So if it doesn't work out, I can always, sell the camera. So it's probably something I'm going to probably make the leap for, because I do want to, make sure I get these POV videos off to a good start, and I don't, turn people off with bad quality in the first few. I mean, I think most people still thought it was, fine, but I think there is room to improve. So I'm going to try and do my best to try and up the ante there a little bit. Danny says, hello, drove alone yesterday and listened to 80s on 8 the whole time. Rare spots are 2008 Ford Focus SES Coupe, Mercury Monterey, Chevy SSR, and a mint 88 Olds Cutlass Supreme. Nice. That's cool. I actually saw a Monte Carlo. I saw a couple Monte Carlos, actually. I saw the G-Body version, which probably was like late 70s, very early 80s, something like that. I saw a baby blue one of those. And then I also saw the Monte Carlo before it got all bulbous for the last generation. So the second to last generation, it was based on like the Luminas. I saw one of those also when I was in West Virginia here yesterday, and hadn't seen one of those in years either. So that was kind of fun to see. Yeah, it's so funny how, again, you just go out of your usual area and the amount of stuff you see, it's different. It's always fun. And Electrified Light Vehicle says, I hear R2 Rivians are road testing and validation on U.S. highways. Nice. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great car once it finally comes out. Again, my Rivian complaints are just, I wish there was, a better key fob solution, and I just wish that, had CarPlay. That's my only two things. But otherwise, I was very impressed with the Rivian when I had the R1T tri-motor here, over the wintertime. It was really, really good otherwise. And Bradley thinks I'm going to get a WRX. It's interesting to see the speculation. Yeah. I'll leave it for the video, but I'm enjoying the guesses. And Chad says, hey, Matt, just getting home from work and saw Kia Rondo still running strong down the interstate. Now that's a vehicle that I feel has disappeared really fast off the roads. Those were a funky vehicle to offer here. I actually had a coworker way back in the day that had a Rondo. It was so funny because it fit his goofy personality so well. That was a funny car. And YH is asking if I'm sipping water. Yes, nothing any more exciting. Just regular boring water here, trying to stay hydrated. And Austin says, Prelude seems like CRZ2 electric boogaloo. That's funny. Not sure Honda learned from their mistakes there. Yeah, we'll see how it goes over with enthusiasts. I think it may end up also being kind of like an Integra situation where you had, a lot of people pissed off whenever it first came out. All the internet people hated it, but then it actually, like, Integra sells really well right now. It's been it's not like setting sales records or anything, but like it's doing very good for that segment, which is pretty low usually. It's also fortunate for Acura that the Integra kind of came in as everything else was kind of aging out. A3 is pretty old at this point, although it just got a refresh. I'll be posting that here tomorrow. But A3 is still just kind of a little bit dated, as far as the platform and all that. CLA is on its way out. The new one's going to be probably way more expensive. And so there's kind of a little bit of a lull in that segment. And so I think Integra is perfectly positioned to be like, okay, you want something a little bit nicer, but you want Honda familiarity, Honda reliability, and a great hatch, and also like the nice adaptive dampers and some really nice touches. The stereo is amazing, one of the best stereos under 40 grand. So there's a lot going for Integra. So I think Prelude still has potential, I'd say, but we'll see. And Dr. Prowler says, is Ford releasing a Pinto or like bringing back something like the Maverick that people used to like? Back in history? I forgot the name or rumor about it. I don't know. The thing about rumor videos, especially these days, there's so much AI garbage. I see like rumors about like new Model T from Ford, and it's like, no, they're not doing a new Model T. Especially like the AI renderings are like a 1920s, car, and I'm like, that is not. Why do people think this is credible? I know you're probably thinking about something that's more credible than that, but like there's so much garbage and like it gets actual views, and it's like, no, they're not making, this crazy hot rod or whatever, these AI renderings are doing. But I just, be very suspect of any rumors or things like that you see, especially these days with all the AI stuff. If you want to know reliable rumors or speculation, you have to go to quality websites like the car magazine websites where they actually have real journalists that really vet this stuff and really check their sources, have their own sources to check and say, hey, I'm going to call this person at Honda and say, have you heard this about the Prelude? Is this something you can talk about? Can you give me a hint or speak anonymously about this? And like that's real reporting instead of just like people just BSing out of thin air with this stupid crap that you see just to sell stuff. Magazines are guilty of some of that as well, but typically they have real sources, multiple sources, credible sources, all things that are just a complete, like, it's just gone out the window as far as media these days. So yeah, I don't think a Pinto is coming back. I think Pinto had such a horrible reputation that they got to give that at least another 30 years for every, boomer to age out of buying cars or whatever, to, so that no one remembers Pinto for what it was, being this exploding fireball with all the, recalls and everything else. So definitely no Pinto coming back. I'm almost entirely certain. I can say that with confidence. As far as, Maverick, obviously we have Maverick already, but it's, there's obviously different ways they could go with Maverick. They could do a cheaper two-door one. They could do a Maverick SUV. I think I saw, rumors about that, of, them maybe just kind of finishing off the back end of a Maverick and having that be something. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a lot of sense for Ford Bronco Sport to get bigger since Escape's going away. So there's definitely going to be some shifting around, I think, and that's, part of the Ford segment, lower down there, the cheaper stuff. But I don't think anything else is coming back. I mean, Ford does have the Model E division, which is the division that's working on the more cutting edge electric stuff. There is, I saw a report recently that there could be, because the Ford Escape is ending production, and the factory, I think it's the Ford Escape, one of the factories is ending production, and the production is getting, the factory is getting, switched over for this new electric Ford, which suggests that we're probably less than a year out from the reveal of the new electric Ford. That is supposed to be like their game-changing thing. They had some like Skunk Works in California working on, and supposed to be affordable and some real big game changer. There's also, I think, still their next electric truck that's still coming soon. So I think Ford's going to have some new stuff here relatively soon, but I don't think it's going to be anything with any kind of crazy historical names, but we'll have to wait and see. And Chad says there's someone with a Nissan Micro in our area. I'm assuming from the Navy base, because I don't even know where you could get one. The Micra. Yeah, Danny says Nissan sold the Micra in Canada for a few years. I know that. Nice. Yeah, thanks for the help there, Danny. Yeah, probably is. I'm guessing if it's from the Navy, there's also, some people that just do bring in stuff from other countries, and that's entirely a thing that happens. Like I even know someone that works for the government, and he's in Germany, and he was able to bring his Cadillac CTSV wagon to Germany. And I think you could import them just regularly as well. And I think they did sell them in very limited numbers over there. But like he brought that over, and it's, I think, on American plates and all that. But it's just because, again, he's got to get the government connection there to allow him to do that. So there's probably something like that at play there if it's a Navy base. I'm guessing. That's always fun to see stuff that we don't usually get. And it also does kind of throw out the argument slightly about, the whole reason why we can't have some of these cars in America is that they're not safe on American roads, but people bring them in here. And, it's the same thing. Like, the part of the argument against the Chinese cars is like, well, they're going to do surveillance with the cars and all this stuff. And it's like, there's already all these camera systems, and there's already Chinese cars that do happen to get driven on our roads from Mexico already, that just can drive right over. So it's like, if that was the concern, like there's a workaround for that already. So that's like, that doesn't hold water in my opinion. Obviously, if you're doing it to protect the American car industry, I can understand that point, but the whole like spying and stuff, it's like, give it up. Like, I mean, we've already been spied on a million times over in every square inch of the country. Like there's no hope for any of that stuff. I think that ship has sailed. But let me see here. YH also said, now that I have a Mustang, I don't want to see him anywhere, or I don't want to see them everywhere. Gotcha. Yeah, it's fun to have one of the only ones around of something like that. And Beth actually kind of commented on that with her new car, because there's one car we were considering, and she was like, oh, I see someone that has the same color and the same look. And she's like, I don't want like, I want something a little bit different. So it's like, I'm not always seeing my own car everywhere, which I can understand. I mean, personally, it doesn't bother me, but I can understand, that perspective for sure. In general, Chicken says, I didn't know they were selling bad, the Mustangs. Yeah, Mustang was down. I can remember how badly it's down. I mean, it made the headlines that it's selling worse than Mach-E, but that's not really that big of an accomplishment because Mach-E is a crossover, and we're in the peak of EV sales right now because of, again, the time crunch. So that's not really a surprise to me, like all the headlines suggested it was. But yes, Mustang is down. I can't remember if it was 30 some percent or more that it's down year over year, which you see like later in the life of a vehicle, but the second model year of a fresh new sporty vehicle, you should not be seeing a drop off that intense typically. So I think it's just again, the tuning thing really hurt it for a while there, and I think is also just kind of expensive, and people like myself are like, well, just get an S550 for less money, so I think that was part of it as well. And Austin says, yeah, tuning is best left for post-warranty. I agree. And Austin says, Matt, I did like the 4K first-person view. Nice upgrade. Thank you. I'm glad that you appreciated the 4K. I've been running a little experiment on my own of waiting to see how long it takes people to realize the videos are 4K now. These live streams aren't, but all of those POV videos were 4K. You're the first person, Austin, to mention 4K. And people have been asking for a while for the reviews to be 4K. And for the 66 people in here currently watching, they switched to 4K like 3 or 4 weeks ago. The Corolla, the Corolla FX that I did, that was actually the first 4K review type thing that I did. And then all the reviews, most of them since, and everything in the past like 2 or 3 weeks now has been all 4K. And no one has said a single thing. So that was kind of my theory, was that 4K is a marketing thing still, more so than it is actual quality, because no one complimented the quality increase or said anything like that. I don't need the compliments or the noticing of it. It kind of reaffirms my hesitation for switching to 4K and not investing a bunch of money to change to 4K. If like literally, Austin, you are the first person to notice, or at least say that you noticed that it's in 4K, which is kind of funny. So I think it is still important to do the switch, and I did it anyway, just because, again, there's more people watching on TVs. It's going to look better on a TV. And it's just something that, just to even future-proof the videos is important. So, but yeah, everything from here on out is going to be all 4K as far as the reviews and the POVs, and everything that I film now is going to be 4K. And so hopefully, that'll be something that people appreciate. But yeah, it was so funny, because I was like, all right, let's see if anyone actually notices. And it didn't seem like anyone really did. And I just thought it was hilarious personally. But let me see, because so many people are like, you have to do 4K. Like it's everything needs to be 4K, and none of those people that were up in arms about that have reappeared to comment since. But Electrified Light Vehicle says, what's your take on the Subaru Uncharted? I think it looks like a better looking version of the CHR. I think CHR looks cool too, but I like the taillights better on the Uncharted personally. I also think it's interesting they're actually going to offer a front wheel drive version. This partnership with Subaru and Toyota is so bizarre. It's always like, I don't know if they don't talk to each other or what happens with the bizarre inconsistencies between the way the two of these companies roll these identical products out. Whenever they revealed CHR, that was at Toyota headquarters. I was there. I talked to multiple executives. I was like, why are you not doing a front wheel drive version of CHR? And they're like, they acted like they hadn't heard that before. Like that thought hadn't occurred to them. Like, oh, well, I mean, we'll just wait and see, how the market leads. And if people ask for it, maybe, and all this stuff. I'm like, what? Like, why is CHR only 335 horsepower and all-wheel drive? Like, this is not what people are expecting from CHR. And then Subaru is the one that says, we're going to do a front-wheel drive version. And, like, Subaru hasn't done a front-wheel drive car since, I don't know, when was it, like the early 90s? So it's just like, again, all the wrong choices here. Like, Subaru should be doing the all-wheel drive stuff, which, I mean, this is what they do with Solterra. Solterra was all-wheel drive only. BZ4X had the front-wheel drive version. That made sense. And so why they're doing that is just all kinds of weird. And I don't know why Subaru chose to do front wheel drive. I don't know why Toyota didn't choose front wheel drive. So it's otherwise though, it's fine. I mean, again, it's all the same. So I mean, if you want to hear my thoughts on how the interior is, how the powertrain is, all the specs and all that, just go watch my CHR coverage. It's the same thing. So I was hands-on with CHR, got to check it out in person. It's a really nice vehicle. And I'm looking forward to driving it here at some point, in the future. But yeah, Uncharted should be, great. I'm happy to see that Subaru's deciding to offer it. I think also Uncharted, if we're talking to Subaru loyalists who aren't looking at everything else out there in the market, and if we're talking about someone who has always wanted a more powerful Crosstrek, they've always wanted, even like a wagon WRX, a hatch kind of WRX kind of thing. Obviously, yes, it's a crossover and it's electric, but Subaru owners are very outdoorsy kind of people. I think, I can't remember. I saw somewhere someone cited a survey that like something like 70% of Subaru buyers would be open to an EV for their next car. And like something like 30% were like, I am going to have an EV for my next car. And I want it to be a Subaru. So I think that Subaru's absolutely, they should totally keep going with the EV thing, because I think for their market, it's like bizarre that they didn't have stuff before this, and they're very late to the game, but at least they're catching up quick thanks to Toyota's help. But I think, it could kind of appeal to, I want a more powerful Crosstrek, especially people who live up in mountains and in areas where, whenever you are in those higher elevations, it really loses a lot of power. You don't have that problem with EV, obviously. So, and also you have the huge perk of enormous amounts of regen braking going down these hills and stuff in the mountains, where you just have a ton of benefits there too. So I think it's gonna be great for like, Colorado, places like that, especially that still have some EV incentives. It's gonna do great in those kinds of places. And I think, again, for people who say, okay, I want something that's faster than my WRX and I'm okay with an EV, and I need something a little more family friendly, but I'm not wanting to go up to an Outback or something like that. I think, Uncharted and even Solterra now, has way more power. I think, those would be really, a nice step forward for them. And, I think it's, going to be smart. I think, we're going to probably be seeing some type of bigger vehicle from them as well. I think that was kind of the idea, was there's going to be Solterra, there's going to be the smaller one, and then probably a bigger one. So probably, a 3-row that we're going to see for both companies. So that's probably, the next step. But I think, once they have all of those out, then Subaru's going to have their bases pretty well covered of their 3 main segments of kind of the Crosstrekky kind of segment, the main Forester kind of segment, and then probably something bigger. I'm still also not sure where regular Ascent is, because I think that should be coming here at some point. That's the next one up for redo as far as timing goes. So I'm not sure when we're going to see that, but yeah, I think Subaru's on the right path there for their buyers. And let me see. Why Itch says you need to critique it nicely, like Rady's Rides. He just songs it. Yeah, I guess that's, again, this is why it's great that everyone has different takes. For me, I think people actually really didn't enjoy whenever I would try to put things nicely, because I think I've done that all along. And people, I see so many comments from people that are like, oh, you're not critical enough. And so I'm like, all right, fine. The gloves are coming off. I'll be really blunt. And so that's kind of what I've done in the past few years, is instead of trying to put it nicely and, always being honest and still saying those complaints, but saying it in a nice way, instead I'm like, this just isn't acceptable. I just kind of, losing patience with some of these car companies that are just making these goofy decisions, or just cars that are just not good compared to the competitors. It's just, I'm sure, yeah, it's going to upset some people that buy those cars and think they're the greatest thing ever, but I'm hoping to just change my image. I want to, change my image from, this preconceived notion some people have that I think is not me, of, oh, well, he never says anything mean. He's just, always being nice and all that. And I want to be like, I'm blunt, not being mean or blunt for just to be a dick, but like, just because I'm, just like not going to sugarcoat this. Like, it's bad. And I'm going to say that it's bad, So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's just, again, it's one of those things where the old way wasn't working for me, and being polite wasn't working for me. So it's like it's time to be a little less polite with my critiques, and we'll see what happens. But General Chicken says fanboys will be fanboys. Brand loyalty is crazy these days. Yeah, and that's great, and that's why I'm not here to rant on anyone's parade. If you love what you love, that's great. And that's something I often say to people whenever, like there's another parent of, one of my daughter's friends or something, like, oh, I love, my car, it has this or that or the other. And I'm like, that's good. If that's good for you, that's good for you. That's great. And like, there's a neighbor that's really excited about the Blazer EV and they really like it. And I'm like, Blazer EV is great. I'm very impressed with it as well. But I'm like, it just doesn't have CarPlay. If you're cool with that, that's fine. I'm like, for me, it really is like a sore spot, but they're like, yeah, I've never had CarPlay. It doesn't bother me to not have it. I'm like, that's great. Then I hope you enjoy it. Blazer is great. By all means, it's a great vehicle. And, and I don't want to, again, rain on anyone's parade for sure with that kind of stuff. And let me see. Philip says, got both my cars after your positive reviews. Well, I'm glad that the videos helped you out. I really appreciate that, Philip. Thanks for letting me know, because that's why I do these videos, is to try and help people find a car they'll love. And so I'm so happy that that helped you out. And hope those cars continue to treat you well and you keep enjoying them there. And Austin says, Rady lets everyone know how many Twinkies and ding dongs fit in the center console. Yeah, that's fun that he does do that. Those little quirks of Joe are very fun. And let me see here. Where were we? And sorry, I'm so far behind on comments here as well. I'm going to see if I can go a little quicker here, but I'm probably going to start jumping over to just member questions here as we, are getting closer to the end of time here in 40 minutes or so. But I'm going to try and keep on answering everyone's as best I can in the meantime. But let me see. So, Betsy, thanks for stopping by. He says, hey, Matt, was wondering why a pano sunroof isn't available on the TX 550 Plus. Is there a good reason? Seems silly at 80 grand. Yeah, it is really weird. And I talked about that in my review too. And I think I even asked someone at Lexus, like, why? And I think it was just some kind of weird production constraint. And I don't know. I thought it was just like a first model year thing or something, but it seems like it's still just staying that way. And you're right, because that's their top trim. Like that should have everything in it, including the roof. I don't think, unless there's a structural reason, but I can't imagine, because you can get it in the TX 500. So, the extra weight of the battery pack of the plug-in hybrid and stuff, I can't imagine that requires a hard roof or anything. So I have no idea. It's a very good question. You're absolutely right. I actually just the other day, I was also looking at TXs again, and I actually just checked again to be like, oh, I wonder if they actually fixed that. Nope. Still backwards with the moonroof selections in the TX 550. So, yeah, next time I'm at a Lexus event, I'll see if I can get any kind of answer out of anybody for that. But yeah, I haven't gotten a good answer yet, but it certainly must be helping or hurting them with sales a little bit, because, why would you want to, pay top dollar for the top TX and not have all the features of the cheaper ones? It just seems like it's like they're constructing it to like work against themselves. It's like, why are you doing this to yourself? And let me see here. Austin says Savage Geese hates everything, though, to be fair. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, those guys, they've, I think they also, it's very much their personality, but it's also, they really go over things with a fine tooth comb. And I mean, there's often times where we do disagree on stuff where they're like, this is the worst thing ever to them. And I'm like, it wasn't a big deal to me. And me and Jack from Savage Geese, when we went on, I can't remember what it was. We did a drive program. I think it was back in the fall. Yeah, I think it was back in the fall for the GR Corolla Automatic, possibly, we were on together. And we drove out in a manual to the racetrack. And, he has a GR Corolla. So he's like, oh, yeah, you can go ahead and drive. And I was like, oh, sweet. Because I'm always frothing at the mouth for another opportunity to drive a GR Corolla. And so we're driving out. He's like, oh, doesn't this like annoy you or this other? I'm like, I'm good with all this. Like, it's great. Like, I don't know if it was road noise he was complaining about or what, but there's something I'm like, nope. Like, I'm in pure bliss right now driving this thing. Like, I don't have those complaints personally, but there's just some things that, annoy certain people more than others. And that's a personality thing. It's a lot of different things. Some people just have a shorter fuse when it comes to certain things, or just they've seen enough, BS that they've just, been jaded enough to just, be tired of seeing some of these things. It's just, I think a lot of it's just kind of their personality with some of that stuff. And it's also, doing it on YouTube is by far the worst way to do car reviews. Just for as far as like from a reviewer standpoint, just, it's just exhausting. And I mean, the quality of videos that those guys do, it's just, they don't get rewarded enough for what they put into it, both financially and work-wise. It's just that I think that there's also that component of it. Just it's they're fighting an uphill battle, and they see all the stupid stuff we see of all the AI garbage out there that's stealing views from us, all the other just competitors that are doing clickbait stuff, and it's hard to fight it. And so I think it's I don't blame them. I am often very pessimistic about the industry and YouTube in that industry, and just all this stuff. But it's some of the direction with cars, I think there is some stuff that's exciting, but I can certainly see the pessimistic side that they get annoyed with as well, and I don't blame them for it. But Jack and Mark are just fantastic guys. I love hanging out with them, and yeah, they're every bit you see on camera is totally them, and it's not like a character or anything like that. That is really them, and they're fantastic. Very, very fortunate that I've had so many opportunities to hang out with them here in the past. Itch says I'm a Mustang fanboy now, and I did my reviews via the Mustang GTS at Enterprise, or the Mustang GTs at Enterprise. Nice. Well, that's a great way to try them out too. Yeah, it's because then you get more time with it than a test drive with a salesman breathing down your neck. So that's great. And Darnell, sorry I missed your super chat. I apologize. Keeping you waiting all this time. I'm sorry about that. He just says, hope you and the family are having a good summer, Matt. Thank you, Darnell. I hope you're having a great summer there as well with your family. I see in your little picture there. Hope everything's going well for you guys as well. And thank you so much for the super chat. And yeah, I'm looking forward. If there's any other questions you have here going forward here tonight, I'm more than happy to answer. But thanks so much again, and thank you for your support. And I also see Chad. Thank you for a super chat as well. He says, after LA had a car run over a crowd, it reminded me of the chat about the Hummer being 9,000 pounds with the same license. Thankfully, they had a compact. Yeah, I saw that this week. And it really sucks. And I feel like we're seeing, maybe it's just being reported more on the news and stuff, but I feel like we're seeing more of these, cars running into crowds all around the world. And I know people don't want any kind of, restrictions with their cars and this, that, and the other. And automatic emergency braking can be annoying at times. Some cars do it better than others. Some cars, there's little glitches as far as fake alerts and things like that. But I really think, with modern cars, there should be no way to turn off automatic pedestrian braking. If you want to rear end people and you want to turn that off, whatever. But like, as far as the pedestrian, there is no excuse for being able to turn that off. And I think most cars, when you turn off all the auto braking stuff, I think most of the times it just does everything. I feel like that's something that should be changed in the industry with regulations. I mean, we're not going to see regulations from the government, obviously, for the next 4 years, but I think car companies should step up and say, we need to make it so that every car already has automatic emergency braking. That was something that they all agreed on 7 or 8 years ago, and that's why every modern car has that. But they need to make it so that you can never turn off automatic pedestrian braking, so that no matter what, no matter how bent you are on running into a crowd, that car will slam the brakes, because we have the technology to save those lives, and there should be no way to turn that off. I mean, I know people want to say, well, what if we're in a zombie apocalypse and I need to run over everybody? It's like, that's not happening. Let's focus on reality and what actually is happening and what the actual problem is. And we need to have automatic pedestrian braking mandatory, unable to be turned off, in my opinion, because we see so many of this stuff. And especially when you're talking about stuff like Hummers. I mean, I think it should be industry wide, but especially when you get to a certain weight limit or EVs in general. And again, I don't know exactly what every car's setup is. So maybe there's some cars where you can't turn it off, but everything that I'm aware of, you can usually turn off automatic braking across the board. I honestly, like, if we want to be even more overreaching, I think there should be no way to turn off any of that stuff as far as the auto braking, because auto braking is literally stopping you from hitting something. Like, again, I know there's maybe some glitches, but I think most of the glitches we're out of the woods on that stuff. In the first few years there was some stuff where people were having your car do a full ABS stop for no reason. And we've experienced that in the past too. Beth's Mercedes way back when did a couple ABS stops like that, where it just saw a ghost and there was literally no one around and it just decided to stay on the brakes. But I think those kinds of glitches, I think now we have more advanced software, more advanced computing, better cameras and all that. So I don't think we see that as much now. So I think, it's now is a more opportune time to make that stuff mandatory. As far as not having at least pedestrian braking, like I said, that's the bare minimum. Like, there should be no reason to ever say, yes, I want to run into a pedestrian. I know if someone's chasing you with an axe, whatever, but like, again, those instances are so minute and microscopic compared to, again, these giant issues we see with these catastrophic events that people are driving into. Like, it's one of those things where, like, yes, there may be one or two people that can't run over a crazy person trying to chase them or something, but like in all the other instances, it's doing more harm than good. I think it needs to be mandatory like that. So that's just me. I'm one of those people that's for regulation. I know a lot of people aren't, in agreement about that, and that's okay. But like, it's just like, it breaks my heart when we have the technology to fix stuff, and it's like, it's right there. We have the tool. All you got to do is put a line of code in that says cannot be turned off for pedestrian. Like, that's all you have to do. It can be literally done next model year across the board with 5 minutes of a coder's time. I think it's so anyway. But yeah, that stuff is upsetting to me to see that, because I mean, you never know when it's going to happen. It was New Orleans a few months back, and now it's LA, and it's just like, it's just hard to feel safe at half of this crap anymore, because it's just like everywhere you go is you see all these crazy things all the time. It's just nuts. But cars should not be turned into weapons. So if we need to have them stop automatically to do that and bring that safety back, then so be it. It's just a sign of the times. But while we're on that topic, just so we don't have to revisit it later, Raphael says, even if you disable it, cars from 1930 to 2015 or 2025 can still run over pedestrians, but I agree, disable turning it off. Yeah. And that is, like anything, we could use the same argument for a variety of things. Obviously you can always find ways to hurt people, but at least making it a little bit harder so that, like, I think that car in LA was a Nissan Versa that was 15 or 20 years old. So obviously wasn't a brand new car, wouldn't have helped in this instance. But, it's this idea of, okay, well, let's get this stuff in here so that once this is a 15-year-old used car, if some crazy person owns it and they want to do this, they won't be able to. It's kind of just even a future-proofing thing, even, if nothing else. But sure, there's always ways, and that's the challenge. I mean, but there's, like I said, there's just endless ways to hurt people if you really want to. But if we can at least take one of those ways away and make it a little less easy for someone to do it, I think that's they're still not good. But let me see here. So yeah, we're running a little bit low on time here. Last half an hour, I'm going to try and get caught up. Bradley's still convinced I'm getting a WRX. And let me see. Austin says, I'd love to see Ford do a retro Fox body style Mustang now, since 80s styling is making a comeback. Yep, I know it's prime time, but we're not going to see a new Mustang, since that 650 was a new generation in their opinion. That means we won't see a new one until probably 2030, so might even be longer, because I mean, S550 ran for 10 years, so we could, almost 10, it was 9, I guess, but So we might not even see till mid 2030s before S650 gets a redo. But I totally agree. I think they completely screwed up with S650. Like last year was the time to do Fox body, and they didn't. And Lancelot's laughing about the Fisker Ocean. Yeah, that's definitely one of those vaporware cars that just, it's man, what a story that was last year. Austin says it's sad to see what happened to Jag. Yeah, it is a shame. I wish people would have bought more of them, but just the formula wasn't working. Dave says, I was just looking at DB9 Volantes on Auto Trader today. Nice. That's awesome. So me and you are on the same page there, Dave. Yeah, I think it's a good buy. I mean, probably going to be a basket case electronically. Might have some very expensive services and maintenances and replacement parts and stuff like that. I'm sure, there's certainly some dedication that's required there. But yeah, just like, it's just, maybe it's a trap, but falling into the trap of nationally aspirated V12 convertible with gorgeous Aston styling that still looks good all these years later. Yeah, that's where my 30 grand or so would go if I had the spare change. Darnell says, isn't it weird how there are no normal Great British cars? It's all luxury, nice cars with baggage. Yeah, yeah, typically, yeah. I mean, there are other like regular British cars, but it's like they never really made the transition to come over to the States for the regular stuff. But yeah, it's like all these just the luxury brands pretty much survived. I mean, there was like, MG and stuff, and that's still, now it's Chinese owned, but MG's, back in Britain in there. And there's, but yeah, all the foreign companies really kind of took over for the most part as well. Stuff like the Dacia Sandero from James May fame and stuff like that. Raphael says, with all the tech we have, why is it so hard to create an engine sound in an electric car? The attempts so far have been terrible. Yeah, I think the problem is that the people that are deciding that are very creative people that, just want to do something that's like high-techy and, gas inspired. And I think that that's just the wrong way to do it. It's a fun idea. And the thing is, there's no limit to the amount of sounds you can offer. So, the sky is literally the limit. Your time of how many of these things you want to concoct is the only limiting factor. So, I mean, I think Honda's on the right track. It sounds like, they have the prototype for their EV that they showed off. I think it's CES or something, where there was, a variety of different sounds. You could have a Honda Jet sound. If you want it to sound like a, Jet, you could have that. Or you could have it sound like an NSX, or you could have it sound like, an S2000. And like, it's just a golden opportunity to have all these sounds. And especially if you want to open up new revenue streams, have it be DLC that you download and buy and unlock. I mean, there's so many. I mean, this has been something I think a lot of journalists have kind of beat to death already. But, I mean, all the companies, especially that have amazing gas-powered vehicles, Porsche. I mean, take your pick of all the amazing companies that have amazing sounds that they could literally download like the Forza soundtrack for that vehicle they're recording and just throw that in a car and people would be happy with it. Like, I mean, it's not hard to just offer it. And I think that Hyundai, was one of the first with Ioniq 5N having the really cool sounds. And I think they made a mark on the rest of the industry because, I mean, it was literally such an impressive thing that even Lamborghini, who's working on their first EV, they were driving an Ioniq 5N around San Agata Bolognese, their headquarters, doing drives in Ioniq 5N. If Lamborghini is doing drives in a Hyundai, like that says something. I think they understand like that's the right way forward. And they obviously have an amazing catalog to pick from sound-wise as well. But I think, with Ioniq 6N, we saw, there's teasers here of some really cool new sounds that sound a little more exotic and sound a little bit better. And I hope, again, there's multiple to pick from. And it's not just like, oh, this car has to have this sound signature. I think car and sound need to be divorced. I think we can have car have whatever sound makes you happy. Like, why limit it? It's an MP3 file. Like, don't limit that. Just do whatever people want. I mean, I think Tesla kind of was a pioneer in this in a stupider way with the fart sounds and stuff and letting people do whatever they want with that whole thing. But like, like why not? Like if people want to have their horn sound like a fart, like let them do it. Like again, there's as long as it's not like a a sound that's offensive or something. Like, I mean, you're not hurting anybody. Like, let people do whatever you want. If you want to pretend like your Civic is an NSX, knock yourself out. You know, if they do an electric Civic someday and you want to have an NSX sounds, like, I think if people want to pay for it or whatever, like, let them do it. You know, so I think, yeah, I think they just tried to be too artsy with it in the beginning and had that box of like, okay, well, a car has to have a sound, and what is this car's sound signature going to be? And I can understand that, and I can see from a marketing standpoint how you need to have those two things be consistent potentially, and you can have like one, you know, preferred sound or whatever. But I think again, you got to open up the other sounds for people who want that. I think it's just an easy cash grab too. You'd think they'd be all about that. Like, you have the IP, you have the sounds, like literally upload it and then make it a menu option. Like, that's all you got to do, and you can sell it for however much you want. You know, $5 a download or something. I don't know, 20 even. You know, if you're listening to it every day when you drive, I think, you know, people would pay a decent amount of money for that. But and Jordan says, have you ever reviewed a CT200H? I actually did, believe it or not. It's a long time ago, so not going to be, you know, as high quality of a review as the stuff I have these days, but I did do a CT200H a long time ago. I complained endlessly about how it's very slow, but honestly, it was a really great car. And looking back on them, I think it's something I wish we'd see another Lexus Prius in a way, because I think that would still do really well these days. But yeah, CT200 is still a quality little car. Those things run forever. Austin says, yeah, Aston Martin maintenance would be a killer. Probably would. Raphael says they should pipe in the natural electric motor sounds instead of making fake sounds. That's, I think, what Ferrari is thinking about doing, because there was an interview, I think, with Ferrari. I think it was Ferrari. Don't quote me on this, but I think they said something to the effect of like, electric cars are not quiet, or they're not silent. You know, they make sounds. Electric motors make sounds. And I think that was the idea was, I think if I remember, there's like talk of them actually having microphones on the motors themselves and actually in real time playing back what it is playing and magnifying the actual current sound and not a recording, and trying to just really amp up what's there. Because I think, yeah, like electric cars sound cool if you listen to them in silence. Like, there are these fun little sounds that you hear, and some there's more than others, but it is really cool. And so I think that's an option as well. But I think, again, having something for everyone is there's no harm in it. Let me see. So Dave says the Aston Martin Rapide is cheaper, but no convertible. I didn't realize Rapides were much cheaper. I didn't think you could get much cheaper for Astons than the DB9. Interesting. Well, I mean, I love a convertible. Yeah, so I'm right there with you, Dave. But Rapide would be fun for a dad car kind of thing, because then I can put my daughter in the back easily, or more easily, and then it still has fantastic looks. I didn't realize Rapides were cheap. Now I'm going to be on a fictitious, or I guess just a fantasy shopping spree. Now I'm going to look up Rapides after I'm done on here. So thanks for the lead and the tip there, Dave. I'll have to check it out, because Rapides are still so all the same goodness. I always loved that car. I don't know why that didn't do better. And Jamie says, longtime fan here. Thanks for being a fan for so long. He says, just got back from a Sunday cruise in my C401. Nice. It's polo green, and I came across an S550 Bullet, and we did some back roads here. What do you miss most about it? I don't know. I think part of me, the thing I really miss is the manual, because it's, you know, very rare that I have manual press cars, and I really love manuals. And so I think that's probably the thing I miss the most. I miss everything about it. I miss the rear-wheel drive antics. I miss the sound. I miss the way the engine pulls. I miss it a lot. I really do. It's such a good car. And they're so good. I think I just loved that it was everything I needed it to be. It always fit my mood. If I wanted to not be shouty, I put the exhaust into quiet mode, and I didn't bother anyone, and I just cruised around in comfort. It was a great highway cruiser. And, I could have it with the MagnaRide dampers. I could have it softer or stiffer depending on my mood. It was great because I'm usually very chill and laid back, but it was so fun to be able to literally flip a switch, have the loud exhaust for when someone was playing around with me or something. Have the stiff suspension if someone happens to be chasing me on a back road or whatever. And just being able to have those two characters of the car, I think I really love that about the Bullet, and also just any car that does that, including other Mustangs where you can have that same, feature. But yeah. And I miss that paint color too. It's just a beautiful color combo. Yeah, I love that car. And I hope you enjoying your C4 to the max. The 01 is a very special one from what I've heard. I've never driven one, but they seem like they're incredible cars. So glad you're out there enjoying the Sunday back roads. Let me see. Darnell says S550 Bullet, biggest thing to miss is the sound. Yeah, that is definitely one of the top ones for me too. And Dave says that era of Aston confuses me. The DB9, DBS, and Virage were also similar. Yeah, I mean, DBS was, a nice step up as far as handling the edginess. I think that one, to me, is less of an odd choice. Virage, I don't understand what the thinking was there. That was just because it's the same thing, and it's just, it was confusing. And I feel like that's one to keep an eye on because I feel like everyone always searches for DB9. And I think Virage has gotten mostly forgotten by almost everyone. And I think, even among people that are searching in that segment, or even our Aston fans might even forget about the Virage. And I think as a result, there's probably less appreciation for it. And so, I think they made a Virage convertible, right? So maybe that's the play, is in the future, go for the Virage instead. I'd be fine with that. It's still Sam Goodness. I gotta look those up too whenever I'm done on here. So yeah, I love Astons. And Austin says he loves C4 Corvettes, pop-up headlights for the win. I know, it was so fun. I did review a C4 way back when, just a regular one, but such a fun review. And that was hilarious too, because it's just all the fun 80s stuff, and some of the bad stuff about the C4 was just fun looking back on it, and that was a fun video. And I even, that was back when I did the intros. I did like an 80s inspired intro to the C4, and I had some fun with that video, and that car is great. C4s are fun. And Bradley says, I do think the purple color on the WRX looks so cool. Yeah, I'm really happy they've offered it in purple. I haven't seen one in person yet at all. I don't know if you guys seen any of the purple WRXs yet. That's a 2025 thing. And yeah, probably pretty rare, but I'd love to see one sometime in the sun. And Rishi says, I think we need an Integra hybrid with a better nav system, since it's an Acura after all. Also an ADX hybrid would be quite nice. Yeah, both of those are no-brainers. I see you say Honda has a hybrid in the Civic, so it's a no-brainer. You got to put an HRV ADX Integra. Yeah, that's one of the things that's so bizarre about Honda, is they have all of this low-hanging fruit that's just literally sitting there on the parts shelf, like right there, like, minimal amounts of work. It all fits. It all is easy. It all bolts right in. Like, it's not hard. Like, I don't know why they didn't launch ADX with hybrid. Like, that should have been an offering immediately at the start. And it's just strange they haven't. Integra hybrid should have been out the same time that Civic hybrid was out. Maybe it'll come. I think Integra is getting a refresh, because when I was driving through Ohio, I think it was actually back when I went to go pick up the Fiat back in February. There was an Integra with camo on the front of it. I didn't get out my phone in time to take a picture of it, but I saw an Integra with camo on the front bumper and the back bumper. You've seen these Acura refreshes in the past few years. They're very mild, so don't expect anything significant. But I'm hoping that, since the refresh is most likely coming for the 2026 model year, that they take this opportunity to add the hybrid and to do all these other things. But yeah, like, now it's kind of tricky, because HRV, like, if they do the hybrid in that, then it's going to literally have more power than the ADX. So they kind of put themselves in that corner by themselves, because it's like, why didn't ADX just launch with this as well? So I don't know what they're doing, but I agree with you on all that. All that needs to happen like yesterday, last year. Like this should have been a thing. But hopefully we see an Integra hybrid here, in the next few months. We'll see. And confirmation, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, weekly VB rant. My local dealer got its first TS. It is being offered at MSRP, which is 52 grand. Fully loaded is 57, which is 6 grand off of the S209 GFA or GFC. Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I know, again, inflation kind of changed all that, pricing wise. And I know, Subaru has their hands tied with tariffs because people buy WRXs, I think, partially because they're Japanese build quality, Japanese built. What do you do? Whenever our country is giving Japan the middle finger, how are we going to, have, and this is why, again, when this stuff was announced back in April, I said, I'm really scared about the affordable performance vehicles because they're low volume stuff. The companies don't need these things. They do it as a passion project. It's maybe a halo product, but that value is really debatable, I'd say. And so that's why I was nervous about it, was especially the Japanese built stuff. Will we see Miata stick around whenever it inevitably has to get a price increase? Are we going to see BRZ and GR86 stick around? Because, WRX was the first one. I don't know why Subaru kind of jumped faster than everybody else to raise prices. But, if these tariffs still stick around, like these companies cannot afford to take that 25% tariff on a car that has zero profit margin pretty much already anyway. You can take a hit on the RAV4s. You can take a hit on this, that, or the other, I guess, but you can't take a hit on these tiny little volume things. And, the option might just be to quit selling it, and that's not unprecedented. Whenever Europe increased the emissions regulations and the cybersecurity laws for cars and all this other stuff, you saw cars just drop out. This is why we don't have Boxer and Cayman anymore in Europe for sale, because they didn't pass the new EU cybersecurity laws. We have the emission stuff going away. That's why GTI lost the manual. But also, like, Subaru just pulled BRZ and GR86. I think those two quit being sold in like the UK a year or two ago. They're out of Europe, I think, now as well because of the emissions. That motor doesn't pass the European emissions standards. So this isn't unprecedented, of like them being like, okay, we don't need to sell this here anymore. Bye. After like 2 years of being in the UK market and the EU market, they just decided to pull out. America's not special. They can pull out of our market just as easily. They build these things for Japan, for Japanese buyers. They obviously justify the business case by saying, well, we can sell X amount in America as well and all that. But Japan's looking out for Japan, and they're going to, do what's best for them. And if that means, they just build them for Japan, and we have more forbidden fruit in the next 4 years here as a result. I think that's very likely, sadly. And this is, again, why I'm telling everybody, one, beat the tariffs by buying stuff now before the prices go up, but also get this stuff new while you can if you want that new car warranty and you want that good finance rate and all that stuff. Because, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty certain that, if a deal is not made, like, we are going to lose every affordable sports car. You will have Mustang, and that's it. Because Mustang is built in America, obviously, but they're not going to move BRZ production to America. They're not going to do any of these things, and they can't do it fast enough anyway, even if they wanted to. So it's not happening. So, like, WRX is the tip of the iceberg. And I think, WRX, they're taking all the flack for this right now. They're the ones that are, the front runners in this price increase, but it doesn't sound like any of these tariffs are going to thaw. None of this stuff seems like it's going to be resolved. It's, I think it's pretty likely, if I were betting, I'm betting that all of these sporty vehicles that don't sell in large numbers, WRX might be spared. But I mean, we've seen WRX prices have plummeted. WRX sales have plummeted because of the prices. I think WRX sales were down like 70% They said there's also very limited inventory, but the reason why there's limited inventory is because Japan saw, oh crap, this is coming. Let's, make sure we cut our shipments so we don't have to pay a bunch of tariffs on existing stuff that's already in the pipeline. So I think that they kind of just very early on hit the brakes on importing. And so that's why apparently there's not very much inventory out there right now for WRXs. And there used to be a ton of inventory and there was plentiful discounts. That seems like those days are gone, which is again why I'm like, with any of this stuff, do not wait. But so I think Subaru's already kind of halfway there. If they're already, restricting supply and then, prices are so high that no one's biting, it's just, I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys see things differently, but to me, it's all the makings of a car accident of it's like you see this person not paying attention and you see that they're going too fast through this intersection. It's like you're seeing the crash coming. Like I'm seeing the crash coming and it's impending. It hasn't happened yet, but it's looking real likely that this is going to crash. I mean, we're seeing, it's not, and it's just the car market in general is just going to crash. Repos are now up over 5%. It's the highest amount of repos we've had since 2009 this year. And I read a report that was like cars, whenever you start to see people being behind on car payments, that's a pretty bad sign for the economy because that's what gets people to work. Like that's one of the last things you skip on. Like you don't want your car repo because then you're not getting to work. So it's like, typically people who are skipping car payments, they've already skipped on credit card payments. They've already skipped on, utility bills, and they are in dire straits. And I think that's a very good barometer for the economy in general. If people are already at 2009 levels of repossessions for cars, buckle up. I don't think it's going to be a smooth second half of the year here, and car prices like that are just the tip of the iceberg for that. So again, get in while the getting is good. That's what I'm doing. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I locked in my cheap car back in February with the Fiat, locking in Beth's cheaper car here to get us through the next few years. Locking in that stuff while we can, and getting ready for a bumpy ride. Jordan, thank you for a super chat. It says tariffs. Do you predict Maverick being built in the USA? Yes, Maverick is too big of a seller. If they can't work things out with Mexico, I think absolutely Maverick's going to be brought over. I don't know, where they put it. I think there's some spare production capacity probably at the Mustang plant. Especially if Mustang sales are slow, they can certainly even probably take a little bit away from Mustang, possibly. But I think, that factory, they quit building the Continental years back and there's nothing there. Flat Rock literally only builds Mustangs. So that factory's got to be super underutilized. So I'm sure Ford is probably going to stuff something there as fast as possible. I just don't know what, but Maverick's probably a top candidate for that. Yeah, it's a good bet for that, Jordan. Thank you for the super chat. And so we have a few more minutes here. I know usually we end up going over, but I'm just going to hit the member questions here going forward. So we just make sure we get all those answered before the end of the night. I apologize for my tangents here tonight that we fell behind on, but and then if there is a little bit of time here, we can maybe go back to a couple non-member questions, but let me see here. So where were we? I mean, I don't think we were too far behind, but let me see. So Nicholas says, I did see a Suzuki Jimny today. Dad got to see it too, which was cool because he had the Suzuki Samurai back in the day. That's sweet. I'm not sure where you live, but yeah, Jimnys are, like non-existent in America. So if you saw one here, that's super cool. And yeah, congrats on the spot. And chat says you should do a super chat contest to guess Beth's new car. Whoever guesses right gets some free merch. That's a fun idea. Yeah. Contests are kind of tricky because there's always ways with contests legally where you have to give people a free way to enter for contests. That's the thing that's never really publicized with all these giveaways where it's buy a shirt and get 50 entries or whatever. Legally they have to say no purchase necessary, and to say that it means you have to actually have a free way to enter. So if you go into the fine print, top tip, if you've never known this already about giveaways, if you go to the fine print, there's always a way that says send us a postcard or something with your name and address and your info to this address, and you get one entry for free, just mailing it in. because they have to legally do that for contests. So contests are a little tricky to do personally. If it could be super chill and easy, I mean, like I got a bunch of like free swag I got on all these media drives I go on and stuff that I don't need, most of this stuff. So there's like times where like I'd just love to give some of that stuff away to like members, pick one member a week and just send them something or whatever, and just do things like that. But it's just like giveaway stuff gets very iffy legally, so it's a little tricky. I wish there was a better way to do that stuff. I guess maybe there's other workarounds. I don't know. I have to see. But that's always like kind of the tricky thing with giveaways. But I'd like to do some more of that stuff for sure. Jordan says, what brand/model vehicle was first to introduce air conditioning? It's well over 110 here in Milton, Florida. Heat had me thinking, man, that's crazy. I hope you guys stay cool. There was some stuff in the 50s that had some very rudimentary air conditioning systems. There might have been something in the 40s. But I don't know. I wish we had B. Mitchell here with us tonight. He would know the answer to that. But I'm not sure. It's something in the 50s where they introduced it. It was really a cumbersome system where they had these like pipes like through the cabin and stuff. It was very rudimentary. But actually, OKS Basis says the 1940 Packard was the first car. Okay, sorry, should have just read the next comment there. Wouldn't have had to blab on about that. But okay, wow, so that's earlier than I thought. Interesting. Well, that's cool. Thanks for the tidbit of info there, OKS Basis. That's impressive. They did it in 1940. That's crazy. And Austin's also, I see, he says, I primarily watch on a 4K TV and it made a big difference for me. That's awesome. Well, thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate that. And Darnell also says your videos will be relevant for 5 to 15 years for a lot of these cars. So switching to 4K across the board will have people most likely to watch the full video in a few years. Yeah, I hope that's the case for sure. And that's another, one of the reasons why I just figured it's time to do that. I see Darnell also said earlier with the Chinese cars and the surveillance thing, we all keep a computer with cameras and microphones in our pocket 24/7. Right. Exactly. Which is, it's so funny when people, talk about privacy stuff and it's like, that ship has sailed a long time ago. Unfortunately, I wish that wasn't the case, but like that anyone thinks they have any kind of privacy with any of this stuff anymore. I mean, I think, smartphone companies are doing a good job of trying to fight for some of that stuff, but it's unfortunately, it's just a long, we're just long past that. There's no hope as far as that goes, I think. But let me see. Last few member questions here. So Joe says, what type of vehicle from which brand would shock you the most, for better or worse? So I don't know if you mean like what would have shocked or what has shocked me maybe in the past. Because as far as like which vehicle from which brand, I guess if we're talking about new stuff coming back or something like that, I don't know. I mean, I guess if it was shocking, then I wouldn't be able to anticipate it by definition. So, there's all kinds of fun stuff I'd love to see that would be really exciting to see come back. But as far as like shocking stuff, I mean, I guess if we're talking like on the negative side, like I would be shocked to see anything come back that had a horrible reputation in the past, like Pinto. Trying to think of others, like Corvair. I guess that one, most people that had a bad taste in their mouth about Corvair and it's being dangerous unsafe at any speed or whatever are people that most likely don't, aren't around anymore for the most part. But anything that's had a bad past, I think is probably, something like Cobalt probably is not going to come back for Chevy because of all the ignition recalls and stuff like that. But I don't think there's too many others I can think of. And Raphael says, watch reviews, but go out and drive cars and decide how it feels to you before you buy. Absolutely. That's why I often say in their videos too, is, drive it for yourself, see what you think about it. And that's why I love doing this partnership I do with the links in the description and the pinned comment now where I say like, here's a link to take you straight to getting connected to a local dealer, have them show you the car, check it out for yourself, see what you think about it. Because I think that's very important. Because, even if everyone in the world thinks it's the greatest thing ever, it might not fit your body type the best, or it might just do one little thing that drives you crazy and is a deal breaker. Everyone has their different deal breakers and their must-haves. And Absolutely. It's really important to, test drive and at least, at the very least, sit in something. Even if, with EVs and stuff, you're not going to probably have any huge revelations as far as test drives if you've already driven other EVs, but at least sitting in it and saying, okay, do I like the way everything's set up? Do I like, my seating position here? Do I like my visibility? All that kind of stuff. I think is very important. And let me see. And Chad says that the CarMax is great for at least just sitting in a vehicle to see how it feels. Yeah, because they let you roam free and most are unlocked. That's cool. I didn't know they were unlocked. That's good to know for people to just, check out. That's cool. Yeah, there's not really any CarMaxes near me, surprisingly. So that's something that's like huge everywhere else in the world. And I've never actually been to a CarMax in my life. And let me see. KSNT 606 asking if they're going to refresh GR86 and BRZ. Yeah, I don't know. You would think around this time they probably would be due for that. But again, if the future of those cars is up in the air, we might not get that or the cars at all anymore. We'll have to see. And let me see. So Wyatt says I can put a mic to my PC and it will sound cool too. I can make it rev if I open a lot of tabs. Right. Absolutely. And so, that's the kind of thing, give people that creativity, let them do whatever they want, even if it's something like that. And let me see. Oh, B. Mitchell is here. Okay, so he joined in here at the end, or maybe he was just silent all night. But he says first AC was 1940 Packard. Was late tonight. Was he that whiny all night? Glad I was late. So, apologies, B. Mitchell. And Joe says shock, for example, Subaru bringing back the STI. Gotcha. Yeah, I think that would be kind of shocking. But I also think it makes so much sense that I'd be like, well, duh, what have you guys been waiting for? So I think there's stuff like that where I think that's, there's a lot of things. I think also just doing the weekly updates for so long, and kind of seeing the cycles, a lot of these things, it makes it fairly easy to predict some of the stuff that's coming and what makes sense to come, at least. Again, sometimes they don't follow along with that like Honda and others, but I think that's, I can't off the top of my head think of anything that would be super shocking, honestly. And Trident Car Guy says, I may be biased, but a Dodge station wagon would be pretty cool. I'd love to see that. That would be, and that would be kind of shocking. But again, there is precedent there with Magnum, so I think they could totally bring it back, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm glad they did that, and I'm surprised they ever got rid of Magnum because I think it didn't sell amazingly well, but I think there could have always been a market for that if they would have nurtured it the same way they did for, Charger. I think it would have been, still. Could you have imagined Magnum getting all the same stuff Charger got over the years, like the wide body treatment, the Hellcat motor, the new interior, all these types of things? It could have been amazing. Maybe in some alternate timeline it happened. I don't know. I can dream. But let me see. Let's see. So Chad says, thanks for another great chat. And Mike says here at the end, Matt, I used to watch your channel way back when you were a SubaruX fan. Are you still a fan of Subarus? In some ways, but that's why I'm really glad I don't have that username anymore, because I'm not a Subaru WRX fan. If I had WRX money, I would be buying, a GR Corolla, especially now with WRXs being the price they are. Definitely for 40 grand, I'd much rather have a GR Corolla than a base, premium level WRX for that money now. But Subaru, just the infotainment's crappy in the Subarus. It's one of my most aggravating infotainment systems in the industry. The CVTs the Subaru does, especially paired up with the turbos, just not good in my opinion in most applications. Base regular Crosstreks and stuff, I can see the appeal for. I think they're fine. My mother-in-law's got a Crosstrek. She loves it. My parents have a Crosstrek, they love it. So there's, I think for, regular people, Crosstreks are fine, but for the enthusiast crowd, I think they, really let everyone down. BRZ is really, WRX is still, good for a certain buyer that wants certain things like manual with all-wheel drive, again, not a lot of options out there, especially nowadays. But aside from that, if you're flexible about, transmission, or if you're flexible about, going for like, again, GR Corolla or something, there's just better options out there than WRX, and WRX just gets bad fuel economy when everyone else is getting, almost 30 mpg out of the same kind of motor. Subaru can only get 20 if they're lucky, all those types of things. B. Mitchell's saying drink over the GR reference. Yep. So there's just, yeah, I'm just not a fan of WRXs much anymore. And it's just better stuff these days, in my opinion. But they do some good things. I think they aggravate me also with the choices they make and just some of the goofy things they do. The easy stuff that they don't do, like why do we not have a new Baja? Like that, like that's another one. If we're talking about shocking stuff, maybe that would shock other people. To me, that'd just be like, hello, what were you waiting for? Like this should have been a thing 5 years ago. But so there's some of those types of things. So yeah, unfortunately, not a big fan of Subaru these days. It just seems like consistently, like even I had the Forester hybrid, and it's like that is, in my opinion, the least appealing hybrid crossover in that segment. It gets pretty much bottom of the barrel fuel economy for the hybrid segment in that area. It's just, again, screen's not as good, styling's not as good. I mean, the styling on like Forester, I still think it's not good at all. I just, a lot of stuff where I'm just like, I don't know, I don't see it, but their sales are doing great, so they're laughing all the way to the bank, and they're doing the right thing for the company, as far as profits goes, at least, I think so. But yeah, not as big of a fan anymore. Jordan says, thanks, Matt. Next Sunday live, would you sprinkle in a few updates, homage to weekly updates? I'm always happy to talk about car news. If there's anything you guys see you'd like to talk about, I'm always happy to discuss. I think next Sunday's live stream will be mostly dominated by discussion of the new car coming in here. So again, the discussion will be about most likely, getting rid of the Mach-E and what we end up replacing it with, which again, hopefully I'll have both those videos out before Sunday's live stream. Also important to mention before we go here, I will not be doing a Wednesday live stream this week because Wednesday is actually Beth and I's anniversary. So not going to be doing a live there on Wednesday night this week, but I'll be back following Wednesday night. So won't see you guys here on the live until next Sunday. And again, going to be a big week, end of the Mach-E saga, and a new vehicle here for Beth and I, and so stay tuned for that, and also another review here on Monday as well. But thank you all so much. Yeah, I see everyone's asking, or why Etch is asking. I'm still on the water here, no Stoli or anything. But thanks for the happy anniversaries, everyone. I appreciate it. It'll be 10 years for Beth and I, believe it or not. 10 years we've been married. So yeah, definitely just gonna have a special dinner with her and just have a nice time there for our celebration. So anyway, but yeah, thank you all so much for hanging out here on a Sunday night. And yeah, for any of you who joined late, like B. Mitchell, feel free to check out the beginning of this as it becomes a video on demand here later. But yeah, stay tuned for more POV stuff this week. I'll be doing more of that, as well as, again, going to keep trying to do more and more of those little YouTube shorts mixed in, some more articles I'll be sharing from Car Buzz that I've been doing, and stuff like that. So lots more content to come here in addition to the new car video. So stay tuned. Thank you all so much. Have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.